So this is effective project management, and now we're doing chapter 3 of the 8th edition, which is what is strategic project management. So summary, we've got to understand the complex business environment within which the project lives and within which the project manager has to operate. We need to talk about the objective strategies tactics model, which is like an onion, as you'll see. And we have to have working knowledge of the project landscape so that we can figure out what we're going to be doing with the project and how we're going to be doing it. And you should be able to, once we're done with this, you should be able to explain the enterprise-wide project portfolio model, EPPM. So project management is a set of tools, templates and processes, and you'll hear that for scoping, planning, launching, executing and closing a project. Tools, templates and processes. And the idea is we want to answer those 6 questions. What's the business situation that we're addressing? What do we need to do? What will we do? How will we do it? How will we know when we're done? And measure how well we did it. Right? So they're the things that we've got to do with project management. So here's a slide that looks a bit like an onion, I suppose, and it's talking about how the project lives. The project really is the square box in the middle with the quality triangle centered in it. Right? The project has lots of risks around it, and we've got to manage time, cost, and resource availability in order to ensure scope and quality. Right? And you can apply that to a project, a program, or a portfolio within the environment. And then stepping out of that, we've got some tactics, we've got some, solid things we can do. Outside of that, we've got strategies. How do we achieve our outer objectives? They're higher level things. Then we're constrained somewhat by the capacity of our enterprise, right? What can our enterprise do, and how do we make best use of the capacity of the enterprise? Our project is probably trying to address market opportunities, so that's the next ring of the onion, and then the overall business climate is within which everything else operates. And there's various things we can look at that impact how the enterprise is jostled. Right? There's political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors. Right? And the acronym here is PESTEL for some of the outside influences on the enterprise or the firm. Another way of looking at competition, or looking at the strategy or the environment with which you want to embed your project, is by Michael Porter, and he has this 5-force model. And the 5 forces are the internal competitors, the market competitors, the bargaining power of suppliers on the left, the bargaining power of your customers or your buyers on the right, the threat of new entrants on the top, and the threat of your customers doing something completely different using substitute products on the bottom. And they're the 5 forces. And as soon as the company or the project has power over one of those, then they can start doing stuff. But they need to be able to exert power on most of them. Right? So you need to be able to raise the barrier to entry to lower the threat of new entrants. You need to reduce the bargaining power of your suppliers and your buyers, so you don't just design your product with a single supplier in mind. You don't just target your product at a single market segment if you can avoid it. And you try and think about the problem your product is trying to solve and make sure it's the best solution for that problem. Otherwise, people will substitute other products. Okay. Another analysis you can do is called SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And they're interrelated, as you can see in the diagram. Boston Consulting Group has a model that has net present value along one axis and the probability of success along the other axis. Right? If the probability of success is high and the net present value is high, so we're in the top left corner, then that's where you want to be. That's making lots of money and it's a high likelihood of success. If the net present value is high and we've got a low probability of success, then maybe that's a cash cow. Not quite sure how that figures in. If we're in the opposite quadrant from the star, then we're a dog. We've got a low probability of success and the net present value is really low. I think that's a double leg up of the slide. The other thing you want to do is embed your project within your enterprise and look at it from the view of value chain. Where does your project fit and how does it enhance the value chain of your company, right? So the support activities that a company may have are research and development, information systems, human resources, accounting and finance, or firm infrastructure, the policies, processes and procedures. The main activities, the primary activities, might be supply chain management, operations, distribution, marketing and sales, and after-sales service. And somewhere in there your project is going to fit and it should be enhancing how your company makes money. Or if you're in a non-profit, it should be enhancing how your non-profit delivers value to your clients, right? The more people you can get fresh water to, for example, would be a way to do your value chain analysis for a non-profit that's interested in getting fresh water to people. Here's another way of analysing a project, VRIO. Is it valuable? Is it rare? Is it costly to imitate? And is it organised to capture value? And then if you can say yes to all four of those, then you've got a sustainable competitive advantage. Otherwise, you're not quite as optimal as that. So here's a, if you like, a hierarchy of how a company works and where a project may fit within a company. Right, so we've got the vision statement or the mission statement for the company or for the non-profit. Within that mission statement, or you may be able to derive 3, 4, 6, maybe 8 top line objectives. What are the objectives of the organisation? For each of those objectives, you may have a variety of strategies that you're going to roll out to try and achieve those objectives. And then the projects and the programs and the portfolios are the tactics that you're going to use to implement those strategies. So that's a way of thinking about the where the projects fit in the overall structure of the enterprise or the organisation. And here's a stakeholder interaction model. Again, an organisation is made up of people, right? So you have the C-level sponsors, the top line managers, the C-suite, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Legal, Chief Information Officer, all those people. And then below those you've got their managers of various sorts, and those managers may have clients, outside people that they talk with. And then within the company you've got business process engineers, figure out how the business is going to change to meet whatever the C-suite has asked for. You've got the resource managers, how are they going to find the people to do whatever it is needs to be done. And then you've got project managers, business analysts, which have a look at the requirements that everybody's elicited and try to form teams to make the projects happen, or to form the projects and then make the projects happen. Yet another way of looking at how a project works, as I said, projects are made up of things and people, but then the people usually need to be communicated with. So here's a way that is sometimes used to identify who needs to be told what and when, and who is responsible. Right, so who's responsible, who's accountable, who's supportive, who's consulted, and who's informed. So across the columns we have all the stakeholders, sponsor, co-project manager, etc. And down the left-hand side we have the stage of the project and who needs to be involved, the stage of the project, and then within the table we've got what their level of responsibility or information acceptance is. And you can see there's some people change roles some of the stakeholders change roles as you go through the process. And here's a spider plot, an example spider plot of the various complexities that you might have within an enterprise and the project management of it in an enterprise. Right, the level of IT complexity, the team composition and performance, the clarity of the problem, the risks associated with the project, how urgent is it, how much change is the organisation going to have, how changeable or volatile are the risks and requirements, how important is it to the entity, to the enterprise, and of course the time, cost and size of the project with respect to the enterprise and other things in the enterprise. So the aim of this is to figure out where your project sits within the overall enterprise, why your project is worth doing for as many stakeholders within the enterprise as possible, and how you should manage your project with that information, at least in the background, if not in the foreground of your mind. Okay, let's leave it there.